Alrighty, welcome everybody to Econ Chat's videos designed to help you be successful in class and on the milestone and maybe, possibly, even in life. And I've got to warn you, today's video might get a little corny. Yeah, if you watched the last video, we gave you that introduction to economics by giving you the definition of economics and explaining that economics isn't always about money, but instead it's looking at making decisions, and we look at marginal costs and marginal benefits. We decide which decision is best for us, and then we make it. We all do that, though, of course, because of that issue of scarcity, where we have unlimited wants and needs but limited resources, but also understanding that because we can't do everything we want to, every decision we make is going to lead to trade-offs and opportunity costs. That was the first part. This next part we're going to be looking at is the production side, things that have to do with the production of goods and services within our economy. Now, that brings up these terms. Make sure by the end of this video and within the work that you have to do that you understand what all of this stuff means. You've got factors of production, which include your land, your labor, your capital, and entrepreneurship. And then we're also going to be getting into the terms specialization and voluntary exchange. So what does this delicious can of corn have to do with economics? Well, if you remember, one of the things that I want you to take from this class is that you can use the stuff you learn in this class and apply it to your average everyday life, like it really exists outside of class. So we start looking at this can of corn and we start looking at factors of production, and we realize that it's really easy to start looking at different products and figuring out what these factors of production may be. Let's take a look at these terms real quick. So you've got the land. The land is your natural resources. Anything used in the production of the good and service that is come from the earth, right? That has appeared naturally is going to count as your land. Your labor is any work, any effort that is done when this product is being made. Anything that is done by a person is going to be counted as labor. Capital is the opposite of land. It's the man-made products that are used in this production. And again, that goes from everything from machinery to factories to money. Any of that is counted as capital. Entrepreneur and entrepreneurship just simply means that we take those three components, the natural resources, the man-made resources, and the effort, and we create the final good or product. We count that as entrepreneurship. So back to the can, right? When we're talking about this can of corn, obviously the corn inside is a naturally occurring product. That counts as land, the water that was used to grow the corn. The water in the can of corn counts as land. You've got the labor, which is whoever was picking this corn or whoever was operating the machinery that canned this corn. The driver that's driving the corn to the canning company, that's all going to count as labor. Capital, now this doesn't grow on trees, all right? This is a man-made product, so the can counts as capital, as does, as I've mentioned, the actual canning factory, the machinery, the farm machinery. Every man-made thing used in the production of this can of corn counts as capital. The entrepreneur, well, I mean, I guess it's easy to say maybe it's the green giant, but it's obviously going to be who leads that business. And we particularly use the term entrepreneur as somebody who comes up with a new idea or a new product, somebody that invents something new, or creates something new. So land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, the factors of production, all there in your grocery. So that's the factors of production, and that deals with how we produce goods and services on the most basic level. Now what we've got to do is get to those other two terms, specialization and voluntary exchange. And for that, you might actually find some definitions within the standard. So let me go ahead and show you the standard. It looks like this. SSEF3 tells you that students need to be able to explain how specialization and voluntary exchange influence buyers and sellers. A, explain how and why individuals and businesses specialize, including division of labor. And B, explain that both parties gain as a result of voluntary, non-fraudulent exchange. So when we talk about a definition for voluntary exchange, kind of look at B, explaining that both parties gain as a result of voluntary, non-fraudulent exchange. And so let's go back to the corn, right? And any product, when you think about it, you go in, you give your money, and in return, in exchange, you receive a product. And that's a good thing. That makes it simple for you. You don't have to worry about buying your own corn. All you have to do is just exchange the money that you have for the product. In return, the businesses benefit. They gain because they give you the can, and in return, they get the money. And that's a good thing, particularly in our economy. And that's something that we're pretty used to here in America. But you'll understand that, especially as we start getting to different types of economies, that may not always be the case. So voluntary exchange just simply means we're exchanging goods and services for money, or basically we're exchanging one thing for another, and it benefits both parties. But what about specialization? Where does that come in? I'm glad you asked. Let me show you. One of the more common things that when we talk about specialization, and you'll notice that division of labor was thrown in there, is the idea of this. It's assembly line. And it's because it really kind of is a good visual of what we're talking about when we mean specialization and division of labor. You see, in an assembly line, you typically are going to have one person focusing on one part. For example, in this car, one person may be putting on tires, another person is going to be doing the painting, another person is going to be putting on the windows, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what happens over the course of this specialization is that that person becomes very good at focusing on the tires or on the painting. And it just works out much easier than somebody trying to handle all the different jobs or people running onto each other. So when we talk about division of labor, when we talk about specialization, I want you to think about this assembly line. Next time you go to McDonald's, notice what you have there. You're going to first pull up to the drive-thru where somebody's sitting there with, and then they're going to take your order, and that order is going to go back to somebody whose job it is to, assemble the sandwiches. Somebody else is doing the fries. Somebody else is bringing the soda. Somebody else is doing the cash register where the customer's inside, and that kind of idea going on. So each person is really getting better at their jobs, and that's why specialization works, and that's why we try to have specialization in business, because ultimately people get better. They get better skills at focusing on one task as opposed to running all around. Think about your school, right? Like, you have your teachers, you have your guidance counselors, you have your administrators, you have your your janitorial staff, you have your lunch people, and all of those are specialized positions. Even within teachers, right? You have social studies teachers, U.S. history teachers, economics teachers, you have math teachers, you've got, all the specialties that go underneath that. And again, the concept behind specialization is that people focus on one part of a task so they get really good at it. And so overall, the task is done in a better way because you have individuals who are much more, educated and better off handling those things as opposed to everybody kind of running around doing one piece of it. All right, so there we go. To run it down, remember, you've got to know these. You've got to know the factors of production. You have to know what land is, what labor is, what capital is, and what entrepreneur is. We take the natural resources, the man-made resources, some work, and an entrepreneur ties all that stuff together and gives you a good or a service. You've also got voluntary exchange and specialization. When we talk about that good or service, voluntary exchange, you've made the product, everything is good to go. So you know what? You're going to voluntarily exchange it for some money, or a customer is going to voluntarily give you money for that product. And then with specialization, it just makes that production of things so much easier because ultimately the little pieces, the little components are all going to be getting better putting together one product, and they're going to be focusing on one part of that, and it just makes more sense economically. All right, Econ Chat's number 2 is down. I hope it made some sense of stuff. If not, to ask your teachers. I hope it makes some sense, though. That's my ultimate hope. Make sure that you provide some feedback, though, if you tell me if there's anything that doesn't make any sense or anything that's confusing to you. All right, that's it. Y'all take care of yourselves. Bye.